Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. It's finally getting to be summertime and the weather's starting to get better. It's been raining for the last 2 days. But I want to get this back on the road because I like driving it, and my friend also has a motorized bike, Ryan, from the other videos. And I think if I can get this running, we can go driving together. So I'm going to move this out into the garage and I can start just doing general maintenance and prep work for future improvements. Now that we're back in the garage, I can finally start working on it. And it needs a little bit of prep work and some repairs. I noticed I went for a ride the other day and my little turn signal lights broke off. The bolt and the rest of the mount is still right there though. So I don't know how it snapped like that. It's weird. But I think I'm just gonna take that off because I'd rather preserve it for later. Don't want to have it be bouncing off. This got bent while I was riding on the railroad tracks. I noticed I have a bad vibration once I start going fast. So I think it's from this rocking back and forth. I have to verify that. And I think this is getting loose. It shouldn't be able to wiggle like that. And while I was riding on the railroad tracks, I also lost the bolt for my seat. So I've always had problems, but that seat, I think I've replaced almost all the hardware for it. Because this bolt snapped in half one day while I was driving. And I'm gonna have to figure out what to put in there. The only reason I have that foam here is because the springs are way too soft to carry someone, so you bottom out instantly. But I think, other than that, I think all my controls are fine. It's really just, that's a little worn, that broke. And I just want to try and strengthen some stuff up because I have quite a few plans for this summer. I want to make it essentially just a motorcycle. So I'm going to start by taking off the little turn signals though. Well, so much for taking it off the normal way. The bolt or the nut rusted on the bolt and just took all the threads with it. So I am going to go get the bolt cutters now. And that's like sideways too. I don't know what happened to do that. But... And no. Alright, I guess I'll try again. It's like not even a full thread off. It's always the smallest piece of hardware that gives the most problem. Come take a look at how stuck, like how close that is. You see it? Come on, camera focus. Oh, focus for a second. Look how close that is coming off. It's like that little spike is holding it. But it won't come off because the threads aren't there. I don't know. I'll just be back whenever I get it off. I finally got it off. So now, all I have left to do is just get that off. Luckily, it's held on with a very fragile leather strip. I don't know. It was leather once upon a time. But now, where'd that fall? Right into my brakes. Now I have it off completely. And this is a really cool setup. I don't know if I can do it with one hand. But like, it actually was turn signals. That bulb fell out. You get the idea. And it was wired to, I don't even know. It was wired to something. But it's really cool because I don't know what it came off of. But whatever it is, it's cool. But it's probably for the best that it's not on here anymore. Because I like how it looks, but if it's going to break off like that while I'm driving, I don't want it to get stuck in the spokes because that would be horrible. So it's going over into the corner with all the other parts that came off. It's slowly getting stripped down to nothing. But if it works, then it works. And now I think the next part is I want to see where this backing plate is shaking. So I'm going to start it up, put you on the stand so you can see. Okay, now I want you to focus on this plate right here, the thing holding my transmission, because it does move. It moves a little bit. It's just when it's engaged, it starts to turn, or starts to swing a little bit. Gotta start up the bike first. Takes a few pulls. Yeah, it's a bit worse than I thought. I thought it was just rocking back and forth, but it's like about to fall off. So I'm gonna try and swap out the spring that's on it with the turnbuckle that I originally had for it. And I want to see if that makes any sort of difference just in how it performs. Like if it stops shaking a bit, then that's fine. I have the belt tension, or not the belt tensioner, the turnbuckle on, and I just want to see if it stops any sort of vibration or shaking or rocking, because I don't remember having it when I had the turnbuckle on last. So. Whoopsie. Forgot the clutch. There. Attempt number 2. Okay, that fixed the shaking of the backing plate. I'm gonna have to trim down the hooks though, because I need it to be a little bit tighter and they're touching. So, but for now, that is a good sign. The fact that that stopped the shaking. I think it was just a spring. It let a little bit too much movement in. So now that that works, the next step I have to do is take apart the transmission and just try and fix it up and improve it a little bit, because I have, let me show you. I have two bearings on each. I have one bearing on each side, but I have these little holders I made and welded on just to try and hold the bearings. I think when it was shaking back and forth, it loosened them a little bit because I don't know if you can see it that well, but like they rattle around and shake. Yeah, you can get a better view here. Just these little spikes to hold it in place. But you can see it's moving around. And I want to try and balance out my pulley a little bit. So I'm going to pop that off and just see if there's anything inherently wrong with it. So to take the transmission assembly apart, I have to start by taking my little, it's usually a cotter pin, but I have a nail in here because the cotter pins kept breaking. They couldn't withstand the pressure. So I'm going to get this out somehow. Oh, and there we go. So now, should I just hammer it out, it should pop out. Okay, back to bolt cutters. Oh, that's one. No, just do one right on the other side. Hammer it out. All I have to do is just put this thing that should fall out. I don't know why this being so problematic. Never has been before. Oh, there we go. So now that that's apart, I'm going to take my wrench and I can start just taking this apart. I don't really remember how to take this apart. It's been a long time since I have last. There we go. All it needed was a little bit of grip. Now that that's off, I can start taking two bolts off. I grab a pulley from the other side so I can grip it. There's nut number one. And I use this one as a locking nut just because when this spins, it tends to loosen both the nuts. Like I've had it, when I was first experimenting with this transmission, I made it to the end of my driveway before it fell apart. And I learned from that. So now I have two, and I have a cotter pin / nail to hold the rest in, or stop that from backing out any further. And I also have a little shim in between those two. There. That's off. I can take my spacer off. It's going right in the little pile. And I forgot to take apart the tensioner. which isn't that big of a deal because it's just right here. It just keeps tension on the second or the final drive belt so it doesn't slip because it doesn't have much surface area to grab onto on transmission. So it has to be a little tighter. Now that's part. I should be able to just slide this bearing off. As you can see, there's a little bit of grease on it. Not quite sure where it's focused at, but it still spins. Still full of grease, so that's all good. And I believe I have to take apart my belt guard on this side. So I only use like 2 different sizes of hardware on this bike, so everything's pretty easy to find. It's either 1/2 inch, 7/16 or 9/16. Now that that's off, I can try to get the belt off. There we go. And I need 7/16 now. You might be able to tell that I didn't build all of this at the same time. I built it over the course of a year or so. So a lot of this stuff, it's not really intended to be easily accessible. Okay, can't do that. Try from the other side. There we go. There. Second I pull that away, it falls right out. Just like that. Now the assembly is out. And now that it's out, I can start working on it. Because there's... Try and see where it's focused at. There's a little bit of a wobble. So I just want to fix that because it's not really noticeable at slow speeds, but once you start getting up to like past 55 kilometers an hour, it starts getting sketchy because the bike will either start to shake, which I assume it's because of this, or it starts to rock back and forth, which was, I think, because of the backing plate that was supporting this. So hopefully if I can just get rid of those problems, it should be a lot safer to drive. So I'm going to start working on this and I'll show you if I find anything of abnormalities. I went through the assembly and I didn't find anything abnormal. But problem is that shaking is still there. It's not fully even. So I'm going back to an old fix. Now that the assembly is all put back together and balanced properly with paper, I can finally start putting everything back together. Now, off camera, I did make sure my little bearing holders were tight. Just these little 4 grabbers on the side. And now the bearings are actually a press fit, which makes it a lot better. And I hope that it'll stay in there for a lot longer and hopefully not shake itself loose again. But who knows, it might. So, same way I took it out. See if I can get back in. Okay, well it's not perfectly balanced, but it should balance itself once it's all together. Also probably help if I took all the parts blocking it out of the way, but not needed. Well, it's a lot more balanced than it was. Spins around better, doesn't really shake or fall. And now just start putting it back together. Oh, one important thing I don't want to forget is that my final drive belt has to go on too. I almost forgot about that. That would have been bad because I'd have to take it all apart again. And now I can start putting stuff back together. Yeah, that's a lot smoother now. Hopefully I didn't forget anything else. Because I did this one time, I just kept forgetting things, like random steps. I ended up taking it apart like 5 or so times. By the end of it, I pretty well just gave up. So I got it all back together right. Yeah, that's a lot better now. And what I like to do is I like to tension it as I go. So it should already be the same size. The way this works, I made it so that as you tension it, it bounces itself. So really, the tighter it gets, the better it is. Because right there, that's pretty well perfect. Like, it's not shaking or anything. It also keeps the bearings in place too. Time for the last 2 locking nut and the little washer. Hopefully that should keep it good for a while. It already feels a lot better, and it'll be different once I put the the tensioner on, because it'll actually pull it close, so it'll have a load on everything. And now next step I have to do is get a nail to use as a cotter pin. I tried using cotter pins, but they're too weak. They break after you pull them out. Okay, so that's the nail I used. And I do have to make it a little bit tighter just so I can get the nail on. Oops. Wrong side of the wrench. I'm not worried about destroying these threads. This bolt was sanded down completely, so it's just this thin little thread. So it should hold everything just fine. Now let's see. There we go. Almost fits in perfectly. Now, all I have to do is just hammer it over. So spin that way. Might bend it a little bit first with the vice grips. Bend over first. Just one side. Just want to make sure it's not going to get caught on anything as it spins, because this is pretty close to my hand when I have to shift, so just Just want to make sure there's some form of safety. There. That's in. It should all be good. And right now, the pin's a little loose, but if I drive it for a few minutes, that'll tighten right up. That already looks a lot more balanced, so hopefully that'll keep it good for a while. Now, next thing I'm going to do is, now that's all done, you see how much better it's spinning. Now that's done, I have to fix the seat, because I was riding it and I lost a bolt around here. So I have to fix that, and I think that should be it. Oh, and I also want to put a gasket in the air filter, just because I have an air leak. This is the bolt on the seat that I need to replace. Well, the nut, I guess. But you can kind of see there was supposed to be like a little bar going across this. I don't have that. It kind of looks like the nuts or the bolt snapped off halfway. I don't think it did, but whatever. Anyway, I did a little bit of digging around and I found the nut with the correct threads. I can't get down with the camera in my hand. And I also found 2 washers just to kind of recreate that. It's under the seat, so no one's really going to see it. Which is why I also have my foam pads, which I reinforced. It kept falling. It kept falling like front or back. So I put 2 more zip ties on top and bottom just so it can't anymore. So I'm just going to get that on and I'll be back. And just like that, the seat is fixed. If you remember before, it was separated from the spring here, like it was kind of lifted up. Now it's all good. I put weight on it, doesn't move. So it should all be good now. And I think, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, gasket on the air filter. Once I do that, that should be the last thing. And it's just because I want to bridge that gap there because I know wind is getting sucked in because it struggles to run when it's windy. So once I do that, it should all be done. Now I just have to take the air filter off and it should be a relatively quick change. If I can ever undo this. There. Can you tell it's been like that for a while? There. There. I think that was the easiest thing I've done today. Say as I can't get the screw back in. Trying not to block the view, but it's kind of hard. Just because I have to see the screws. And time to put back on the air filter. It's like stuck to the hose clamp. It's weird. There we go. Just took a minute. There. Air filter's back. And now, bring you over here. Right back there is where the gasket sits, so that should stop a lot of air from coming in there. And hopefully it'll just make it run a little smoother. especially while idling. It is a hard time just trying to idle. And I'm gonna reattach my return spring before I forget. Actually, where'd that go? There was a spring running from here to over there, and I don't know where it dropped. Well, I'll find that in a few minutes. But for now, I think it's ready to go on a little test run. So I'll be back when I get my return spring back on. Works better. I was trying to aim to get in front of the camera, but that'll do. Yeah, I gotta fix my foot brake a little bit, because in a panic when I go to try and reach it, I can't hit it just because of the location it's at. I don't know if you might be able to see it just down here. If I plan out my stop, then I can hit it, but it's just when I'm not thinking ahead. And I think I have to clean the spark plug again because it was having some trouble starting. But apart from that, it actually feels pretty good driving around. Transmission's still nice and tight, so that's good. And when I was hitting the throttle, just revving up the driveway, that's the type of speed where it would usually start to stutter. Or not, I'm thinking of Datsun. That's the type of speed where it would usually start to shake, like vibrate heavily. But it didn't do it this time, so that's good. Barely in camera. Yeah. So all of the work I did was it was just to prepare this for other work, because this summer I want to be driving this more and more because it's fun and I have more ideas for it, and because I have a big idea coming for this very soon. Pretty much once I'm done doing exams at school, I'm going to start working on it. So hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.